Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are glad you are here, and just by showing up, you're already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I am pleased to kick off Women's History Month and present two people who do some incredible work behind the scenes behind the scenes for some of the coolest projects and coolest stars you'll ever hear about. I promise you will leave smarter and more enlightened than you arrived. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones. And ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible during the session. Also, please make sure your chat is set to address everyone, not just the host and speakers. I want to thank our program sponsors, for without their support, we could not do this for free. Special thank you to First Horizon Bank, Turnkey ZRG, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, MedJet, Tennessee Brew Works, Project Music, and Better Than Booze. So let's get down to business. In today's host seat, we welcome my friend Jesse Kirshbaum. He's an American entrepreneur, talent agent, author, executive producer, and deal maker. The multi-hyphenate creative businessman has made his career focused on the epicenter of entertainment, technology, and brand marketing. He started his career finding and developing talent, and from there has extensive experience securing talent for concerts, tours, and endorsement deals for his various clients and brand partners internationally. In the same way he's known for helping to break artists, he now focuses on building robust strategies and campaigns for big and emerging brands that wish to break into the mainstream zeitgeist. He's also one of the top deal makers and thought leaders in the music, tech, and brand intersection industries. He creates and curates Beats and Bytes, one of the premier weekly newsletters in entertainment and the biggest music newsletter on LinkedIn. His writing is published all across the web, and Jesse has regularly featured appearances on platforms such as Cheddar, Yahoo Finance, NASDAQ, and a regular guest on the podcast circuit. In 2021, Jesse was hired as CMO of DreamStage, a revolutionary music live streaming company which sold this year to Deezer. He currently resides in Miami and is back as the CEO of New Agency, as well as teaching a class at American University called The Streaming Revolution. Jesse, it is such a privilege to have you here. I've been chasing you for months to do this, so welcome, my friend.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Tom. Thanks so much for having me and, of course, Mandy as well. We're excited to be here, or at least I am. I'll speak for myself.
And joining Jesse as today's featured guest is Mandy Aragones. From assembling influential albums and tours to giving back at the helm of an active 501c3 and managing extensive real estate portfolio, Mandy exhibits an uncanny ability to multitask at the highest level. She not only guides the career of Grammy Award-winning multi-platinum hip-hop icon Slick Rick, but she also oversees his charity called the Victory Patch Foundation and her own consulting firm, Endeavor Agency. Her purview includes eye patch music publishing and pre-licensing and sampling clearances for Slick Rick's extensive catalog. As his tour manager, she has shepherded tours across 4 continents, as well as performances on the Rock the Bells Tour, Master of the Mic Tour, and the NBA All-Star Weekend. She's expanded his status as a style icon and cultural force by developing partnerships with Amazon, YouTube, Bally, MCM, Clark's Originals, Nordstrom, and Urban Outfitters. She also facilitated a collaboration between Slick Rick and artificial intelligence brand Urban Cool Lab in celebration of the 30th anniversary of the classic album, The Ruler's Back, yielding a gender-neutral collection of inspired by some of his personal style. Under her watch, Victory Patch Foundation has ignited various social programs, camps, and college funds, in addition to collaborating with the likes of Bronx Youth Empowerment Program and Fresh Direct. Plus, she penned the foreword to Dr. Tana M. Sessions' Working While Black, a women's guide to stop being the best kept secret. Mandy even shines as a hair model signed to the 1114 agency, appearing in collections for Urban Cool Lab, PacSun, and more. It is my pleasure to welcome these two rock stars to this platform. Take it away, guys.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, that was a warm introduction. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, that is a lot to unpack there. This is, meant to be more of a casual conversation. We've got lots to cover. Obviously, we want to give the room a lot of alpha, a lot of insight, but really we're just going to kick it and talk about what we do here and how we do it. And there's a lot to kind of talk about, which is going to be fun. So let's just start. Can we kick it off with a happy birthday to you? A happy belated birthday to you, Mandy.
Thank you, Jeff.
And happy International Women's Month, even though I feel like in your home every day is International Women's Month.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Jesse. I'll receive that.
And so you just came back from a pretty amazing birthday weekend.
Yes, I went to the Blue Lagoon out in Iceland. I needed some R&R, right? Rest and relaxation. And it was just extremely euphoric. More women need to take time for themselves to recharge, as I feel like we're the salt of the earth.
I agree. And so you just decided, like, was it something that was planned? Was it something that you kind of like knew you needed to go there? How do you end up in Iceland in
Trusting another woman? Yeah, trusting another woman. So a friend of mine, her name is Kim Lumpkin. She manages a few other artists in the industry. And she just called me one day when she was at her connecting flight and said, hey, I know we're supposed to hook up, but Mandy, I'm just coming over from Iceland. I went to the Blue Lagoon and just shared her experience there with me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. We work so hard and we travel so much and we work really hard. So sometimes you have to kind of relax really hard as well. And I just decided to just take a chance on this new space called Iceland that I've never traveled to. Very beautiful. They don't have McDonald's there. There's no McDonald's there. It's a very green country, just fabulous.
What was an insight that you gained from about yourself or even the country when you were there? And first of all, I want to say shouts to Kim. Kim's amazing. I mean, Kim has got her hands in so many awesome, cool things and projects and working with some of the most prolific artists. She's just a great woman and a student of the game. And just definitely, if anybody can get a chance to connect with her through Q-Tip or through Salam Remy or through what they're doing with their museum in Miami where we hung out, it's definitely worthwhile. So she's special, and if she gave you this sage advice, I can understand why you jumped on it.
Oh, completely. Yeah, when I grow up, I want to be like Kim. She's definitely a woman that I aspire to be as well. I'm thinking here, I think that at this point in my life, just going to Iceland is so strange, right? Everyone wants to vacation and everyone wants to go into heat and sun, right? No one really vacations to go into damn near Alaska, right? So, but I do feel like the lesson that I learned was just to try more things on the relaxation side. And, the world is bigger than the Caribbean, Miami, no disrespect, Jesse, et cetera, et cetera. So I plan to do something later on this year and travel to an obscure place that, is really kind of sight unseen.
I love that. It's so much about success in the way I do thinking is about being different. Right? Everybody's doing the same thing. It's really hard to win or to stand out or to come up with new, fresh ideas, which is everything in what we do.
Mm-hmm.
you're doing the same thing. You're putting the
Right.
same inputs in. You can't expect the same outputs. Or
Right.
if you're putting the same inputs in, the same outputs, trying to get new results would be insanity. So going and thinking different, thinking out of the box, being a contrarian, uh, is worthwhile in so many ways. So it's interesting that you're kind of embracing that. And for your birthday, for your vacation, for your winter break, to go to an even colder place, definitely is not thinking kind of what most people would be thinking, and that's interesting.
I also, just to jump in for a second, I also feel like for myself, and I'm going to ask you this same question, literally sitting still, I mean, literally sitting still in quietness allows the noise in my head to kind of compartmentalize and allows me to understand what do I want to kind of do next. It just kind of comes to me. Is that how you work as well, Jesse? Do you have to stay quiet, or do you need noise and music and atmosphere to kind of get you going?
It's both, but being quiet is so important. I'll tell you, my whole life changed when I discovered meditation. About 10 years ago, I was in the music business. I was an agent. I was representing artists. I thought it was kill or be killed. I'm in the concrete jungle. Every day is about survival. I'm telling my friend this, who's now a pretty prolific meditation teacher. And he
Okay.
was like, you need therapy. I was like, well, what's this meditation thing? He's like, you're not ready for meditation. You need therapy first, because that sounds crazy to live like that. That's not going to be good for your nervous system
Mm.
long term. And I mean, I look a lot younger at 44 than I do at 30, or 33 when I stopped representing artists. And meditation, sitting still every day, 20 minutes, doing this kind of practice, learning the art of it, and then really being disciplined about doing it, it makes such a world of difference. After about 5 months, started to get this clarity that I don't want to be doing exactly what I'm doing anymore. I love music, but I just felt like there was new frontiers, and I rebranded my company. I changed
Mm.
my whole direction. I really changed my whole life and my lifestyle. It's credited to meditation, and I'm a big believer in sitting still every day. I mean, and I forget, right? Like, because I love the noise and I like to brush my teeth to a podcast, and like I'm always moving. I'm in the gym. I'm not trying to listen to, myself think. I want stimulation and content, and I'm constantly searching for that, for new creative inputs. But it's sitting still is so important. Finding downtime is so important, even if it's in between calls. I
Right.
just feel a world of difference when I'm not back to back to back, and
Mhm.
I can plug in for 5 to 10 minutes to think. Um, Being able to think is so important. And critical thinking in this day and age, where there's just so much false news and crazy kind of information overload, it's just so valuable. And taking 2 days to go, or 3 days to go away and think about something completely different, but it's human nature,
Mhm.
is I know creative ideas flow. So it's, for me, who thrives in creative thinking, and being around creatives and a creative environment, it's everything. And so I build it into my everyday practice. It's like brushing my teeth, sitting in quiet.
Can I ask you a question about your meditation? Do you practice affirmations as well?
I have it before, and I love them, and then I lose them, and
Mhm.
I'm like, new set.
Mhm.
And through working with my therapist, who's also kind of like an executive coach slash therapist at the
Yeah.
stage where I'm at,
Yeah.
she has helped me to reprogram with new affirmations. So I don't do it as disciplined. It's a little harder to do. You're like kind of saying it out loud. I'm usually waking up very early. Like, my fiance might be sleeping in the other room. Whatever the reason is, I don't sit there and say like the things that I maybe need to, but it's helpful. It's not quite for me as helpful as other things to really feel my best, like
Okay.
good sleep, meditation, exercise, um, taking time to kind of write or draw or journal, to just kind of not just be caught up in like other people's agenda. Really, there's such a difference between being productive and being busy.
Yeah.
And I really thrive. Like, it's impossible not to be busy in this day and age with so much social media and cell phones and texts and emails. It's just, you can't not be busy, but really what I want to be is productive. And there's so much coming in, this too, and only gets better when you're in cycle. It's fun to kind of navigate, but it's also, I really try to pride myself on working my to-do list and not what's coming in and not being reactive. And that's how you forge forward. So for me, that's a big part of how I think is in the morning, I'm writing out my plan for the day and I'm writing out my intentions for my conversations and I'm kind of mapping out how I want this to feel and what my priorities are and realigning. And then I'll meditate and then more ideas will come and I'll write them down and then I'll dive into the trades and I'll start to kind of get my finger on the pulse of where things are going and what's happened overnight. And it's a 2.5 hour process every morning to
Yeah.
really center myself.
How
And
how long is your to-do list? How many things do you find on a daily basis?
it doesn't go daily, right? Like
Okay.
it's like,
Yeah.
how's your day? It's
Mhm.
tough to say. I
Okay.
really kind of base it on the week. Like my week is I'll give myself a report card at the end of the week. How did
Okay.
you do this week? Because you know how it is. It's like you chase a piece of it and you get a little piece back and how the day goes. There's so many inputs. It's really like, what was I able to accomplish towards my goals for this week?
Okay.
And then the little things are the day to day, right? Okay, today I'm going to take 3 things off my to-do list. I'm going to take those, I'm going to schedule them, I'm going to knock those out.
Mhm.
But the day to day is just so much kind of firefighting and, random phone calls. And I really want to embrace serendipity because it's such an important part of life and just like taking advantage of life for what it is. So when you have those serendipity muscles, and I've read about this, and my newsletter is a really big serendipity bomb. You want to have that headspace and free space to kind of like accept what the universe is sending in. And those can throw you for a total loop, right? Like the phone could ring and it could be the president of X company that wants to talk to you about an idea, and those are calls you want to be available for and make yourself free for. And so it's it's definitely not a day-to-day to-do list.
Mhm.
More like there's day-to-day, like, okay, 5 action items that I'm going to finish
Right.
today, or like I might leave my office and write 2 things on the back of my hand, even if I have to be like, these 2 things I got to remember to do before the end of the day. But
Right.
I really kind of put everything in 3 buckets: work, health, and relationships.
Okay.
And so everything kind of is looking at how they fit into those 3 kind of main goals every single day.
And I have a question for you based on Tom's introduction or reading, or should I say reading your bio. Can you tell me what year you started the Beats and Bites and what prompted you to start that?
Yeah. So Beats and Bites is my newsletter. It's really like going to the trends gym for me at this point each week. I read scour the internet for 1,000 articles essentially each week. I'll pick 100 that I'll read, and then I'll select 10 as kind of a share to the industry as a give back. It
Mhm.
all started really when I started a new agency.
Okay.
And essentially, with new agency, I wanted to do it new. I wanted to do it different. I wanted to do it not like these other companies. I was moving back to New York from LA.
Mhm.
I was working in the video game business at the time in LA. And I realized this digital revolution was coming and that tech was going to be a savior to the music business. A lot of the business at the time, first of all, my whole like first 3/4 of my career, the business has been in a downward spiral. Now, all of a sudden, it's really healthy and has new challenges and opportunities. but the digital revolution decimated the music business, and the era of selling these CDs for, you know, $20 a pop by the truckload, it was just over. And the profits were just, you know, these CDs cost very little to make. The profits were astronomical. There was a lot of greed. There was a lot of predatory practices. And now they were, all of a sudden that money was gone, and these record labels were losing so much cash. It was just like a paradigm shift. And I started a new agency thinking, let's do things different. The major agencies, the major labels, they weren't talking about tech in a positive light. They weren't embracing tech. And I thought these were, first of all, opportunities for my clients, front line, and B, I thought these were great founders. I mean, we were working with Spotify before they even launched in the US, and we were helping them build out strategies and how to get into the college market. And so I started doing these events in New York around when I first moved back to New York. There was these video meetups, and there was tweet ups, and there's all these digital kind of events, digital media events, and like Web 2 was starting to boom in New York. And there was these kind of community events, New York Tech Meetup. And the president of New York Tech Meetup did a speech, and he was like, I'm looking for community leaders in different sectors to bring together and help foster tech in New York. And I was hooked, and I wanted to do music tech events. Let's do something. Nobody was shining a light on music tech. Music tech was like taboo. If you're doing music tech, like, you're screwed, because you're never going to get the label deals in place. You're never going to get the licensing, and tech is ruining this business for what it is. So it was just like, in every which way, nobody wanted to touch music tech. So I started to do these events and started to, you know, do community events, tie into things like Social Media Week, where I would rent out Tower Records' like vacant venue and turn it into a conversation where we would bring in brand marketers and artists and tech leaders and kind of have these conversations. And I started to just see, like, we were getting crazy traction, hundreds of RSVPs, people wanted to be in the room. It started to be this thing where there was like a lot of passion around tech and music. And I started to just kind of collect these emails, make these relationships, build certain deals for my clients. It was working. I did an award show called Flash Forward, where I would highlight the best and the brightest in music and tech. And I was able to get big brands and artists to perform at it. And it went on for about 5 years of me doing this while I was running the agency. And I loved it. But the events business can be very distracting. It can be very expensive. The margins are not great on these type of things. They were labors of love, but I was too busy to do these events on a regular basis. So essentially what I did is, as I was rebranding the company from representing artists to kind of representing these brands and tech companies and platforms, I said, let's stop doing events, even though they're so fun, and let's take that list of 10,000 folks that have come to or RSVP'd to different events and galvanize that to launch a newsletter. And that's how Beats and Bytes began, was just the install base of people that had come to our parties, from personal parties that we were throwing, to Halloween parties, birthday parties, to music and tech events. And then from there, I honed my voice. At the beginning, it was really kind of confusing. I wasn't sure what a POV was. I knew I needed to build one, but I didn't know what it was. I knew I was a champion of tech, and a lot of my gift is shining my light on others, and I was doing that as an agent, but I just didn't know what Beats and Bytes should become or would become. And I just kind of treated it like a consistent grind. And I've been doing it now for about 8 years. And in the past 2.5 years, it's really found its stride, and just has grown in impact and influence. And it's fun. I really think I can do more with it. Between you and me, I feel like I can really re-optimize it, now that, first of all, the newsletter space is just booming, and there's this kind of need for a voice of somebody that's really in this space of music and tech and brand marketing. I kind of feel like I have my unique niche, and I do a lot of work with this, and I give it back to people. It's something that just gives a lot of insight and a lot of alpha into my school of thought. So it's a fun project. It's definitely led to a lot of business, but it's also, um, takes hours upon hours each week to do it. But I look at it like I'm shaping my mind to really understand. You can't be a dot connector if you don't see all the dots. And so, I like it. I hope other people like it. And I think for now I'm going to keep doing it.
I think it's great because, we no longer have, Beats and Bytes is technically a digital magazine. And it's I feel like in a very, short form, but we don't have Double XL anymore. We don't have the Source magazine. My gosh, how many magazines did we have for information
Oh,
about the community? There were several, right?
I subscribe to 35 magazines a month. I used to love magazines. I mean, it's sad that they're just like so dated.
Yes, where's the one-stop shopping where we would get whose music is coming out next and the ratings, so I feel like Beats and Bytes, for those of us that used to read trade magazines, this is a little hug towards us because I read it, Jesse, and I find out literally from your Beats and Bytes what's going on. It's dope.
Thank you.
And it
Thanks a
covers a lot
lot.
of ground. And it covers a lot of ground.
And there's always so much fun to unpack with it, right? Like I really read this. I'm really doing this work. And so it's great because it's just the business is changing. There's so much dynamic opportunity. There's just so much to see and do. It really feels like a creative era in music. And so I like it, and I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad it's helpful.
It is.
And
It is. And I got to give you your flowers. I think the best part of it is that you do bring in your point of view. It's not like you're just kind of reporting neutral. There's a feeling to it. If you kind of disagree or unsure, you state that. It's pretty refreshing.
good. I think, unique POV is so important. It's like you gotta stand for something in this world or you fall for everything and you're just flimsy. And it's just people don't want that. Like I'm really about discourse and conversation, and I think it's important to have that.
Mhm.
But I don't think that um, just putting out a neutral, safe
Yeah.
position is interesting or dynamic. Like I keep going back to this quote I heard recently that I liked, which was authenticity is the strongest frequency. And I think people want that, whatever that is. I mean, ideally, it's a good authenticity, but I'd rather know where you stand than be trying to see this contrived version of who you are that's trying to fit in different boxes. And I know you know this. Like you are opinionated, you speak your mind, you've got really good experience. I love talking with you because you also have a POV. I think you should have a platform to, because I think like, I'm really glad you're here on this with me because I feel like it's a I value what you have to say, your perspective. I mean, you're here. We're working on a project together that we can talk a little about, but it's going to be exciting as it really picks up steam in the next couple weeks. It's innovative. It's on the front lines. It's not obvious, but
Mm.
as we've been working on it, right? I ran into Bree last night. I'm in a hotel because I'm in LA. I just coming from the Billboard Women in Music Awards, and I ran into our friend Bree, the
Mhm.
CEO of PacSun,
Yes.
who about a year ago, maybe 10 months ago, we met at a conference that we both spoke at, and it led to this really out of the box partnership that's starting to finally take shape.
Yes.
But it's really cool to see that Slick Rick is going to be working with PacSun in stores and with Roblox to further amplify this digitally, as all part of this monumental year that you're putting together for Rick's new album, And I want to hear more about that because it's just like the coolest thing. I can't believe that it's been 23 years since you put this, since he's put out a record.
25.
Unbelievable. And the rollout around this is just so freaking exciting. But as we put this project together, we got to, speak a lot. We did some cool stuff, hung out in Miami, did some cool stuff in New York. But you were on a run of a lifetime in this hip hop 50th anniversary just to set this up. And just hearing about your stories from the front line, like I was lucky enough to be able to accompany you at Radio City Music Hall for DJ
Yes.
Cassidy's thing, for the Bronx 50th anniversary show, which was so freaking big and so historic. You were everywhere. Like, can you just run me down like what last year looked like before we even get into what next year looks like or this year looks like?
Last year looked like a lot of community. We were working literally nonstop. I know that hip hop has just turned 50 August of 2023, right? So we're still in the 50th year of hip hop. But once it turned 49, everybody started to kind of crank up the dial, and a lot of brands try to get ahead of it. So there was just tons of shows, tons of private events, tons of accolations. It just was I felt like I felt like for us personally, it brought a lot of community together. So there were like some artists that we had never met before. We got a chance to finally meet, because Hip Hop 50 kind of just it kind of created a melting pot of all the generations, all 5 generations of hip hop, and bringing everyone together. So it was kind of like a blink of an eye. But Yankee Stadium was great. Cassie was great. What else did we do last year? We were on the Force tour with LL Cool J. So we did that, and then Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh harnessed their own tour. So we were part of that. That was called Masters of the Mic, etc. So we were literally juggling the needs and the demands of everyone, walking down the nostalgic platform of what Hip Hop 50, meant to them. So
It was
super
so
awesome.
fun. It was so fun. I mean, and even like the Grammys,
Oh my gosh, I forgot to yes about the Grammy.
Icon Awards, just
Yes.
it was such a special moment for like the jam session of what hip hop has become. Um, it's like, did you feel like were you nostalgic? Did you feel like there's still work to be done?
Oh
Like,
my gosh. Yes.
what were some of the feelings that came to you after this like unbelievable run of just nonstop um fireworks celebrations around the culture?
Tons of feelings of happiness, a ton of gratitude. Also, like I said, also seeing a lot of the other artists that are not usually out working. There was a spotlight literally on hip hop. Pretty much all of last year, there was no award show that didn't have a hip hop component, right? Their presence was everywhere. Hip hop's presence was everywhere. It felt great, but also on our side of the world, in the Slick Rick kind of ecosystem, hip hop has turned 50. Wonderful. But also, how do you represent that and kind of show what does turning 50 mean? Does it mean something that just started only in 1973? Or does that mean how do you take this beyond and even further, almost pulling it out of the nostalgic realm? So that's always been, Hip Hop 50 didn't trigger that emotion or those thoughts or that runway that we wanted to walk down. That's always kind of been our mantra of how to ensure that hip hop grows in a classy way and that it's represented the correct way, and also to break a lot of the glass ceilings that hip hop is put in, right? It's considered, I guess, a youthful culture, although many of the folks involved in hip hop that are millionaires and billionaires are pretty much all over 40, et cetera, et cetera. So Hip Hop 50 just, it allowed us to celebrate its roots and the young men and women that the roles that grew from concrete, right? Though they were the 1973s and the 80 somethings, you know, they started something that they didn't even know they were starting, right? This culture with these 4 or 5 elements that hip hop embodies. So yeah, Hip Hop 50 was great, but we're ready for more, which will include this PacSun and Roblox collaboration and partnership that we have, which will allow Rick to be placed in the tech space and also the fashion space, which is something that is part of his brand and just naturally a natural extension of him. So we are very excited, Jesse. We need to do a whole thesis on how long it's taken us to do this, not in a bad way, but really the work that it takes to do to produce an activation with all these 3 different components: music, fashion, and tech. Right? It's not easy.
People actually think we did this relatively quickly
Yeah.
in the circles where this started. They can't believe how quick, the idea birthed in a matter of hours. And yeah, it takes time to put this together and a lot of learnings.
Yeah.
A lot of credit to you and Rick. I know it's a big part of what you like to do, and what Rick gets excited about is doing that new thing,
Yeah.
right? You're going to do something
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
with what he's built.
Yeah.
And that's always going to run, and you're still doing cool, freaking amazing stuff. Like this new album is like, I mean, let's just be honest. It's produced by Idris Elba. It's being distributed and released by Nas's label Mass Appeal. It's very visual. I mean, the things that I've gotten to hear or see are mind blowing and like freaking culture shocking, and everybody's so pumped about anything that is coming out of this project. You're sitting on something that's just going to be lightning, and I think is going to propel all the stuff you've done to another level. But that's great. But I feel like, all the shows and all that, you really get excited about doing new things, aging younger, doing things that aren't obvious, working with PacSun. I mean, does Slick Rick and PacSun even make sense? To a non-trained ear, someone that really doesn't get the nuances of what Rick is about and what PacSun is doing as well. And to put Roblox on it, like, yeah, now Cher's doing Roblox, and a lot of people have jumped on the train, but we were talking to the heads of entertainment to build this strategy out. It's happening. I mean, we're this the end of this month, Rick is going to be in Roblox, like with who knows what that effect is going to be, giving out digital chain. I mean, we were at the Women in Music party last night. People didn't even want the hoodie. They want the hoodie, but people really want the digital chain. Can you save me an eye patch? Like you got one for me. Like my kid needs the eye patch. And those are going to go quick. I just realized that, like, whoa, hold on. That's actually going to be a whole other commodity component to this that we're going to test and learn.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be, it's been a learning experience the whole way through.
It has, but it's about being brave. It's about being a thoroughbred. It's always about risk taking. And sometimes if not now, then when?
Well, it feels like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you've got to pick and choose. I know you've only got so many hours in a day. I
Right.
know that, Rick is also very protective of his time,
Yes.
and he's a creative spirit to the core.
Yes.
So I know that, like, he doesn't want to just run it. He's not like a young artist that just wants to be at everything. Just, if I'm not creating energy, then I'm not working. I'm
Right.
not progressing. It's not that.
No, and it allows him to stay as pure. It allows him to stay super pure. That works for him, instead of being kind of spread thin and kind of maybe schmoozing with everybody. For him, that's not his cup of tea. So, yeah, he's a purist by nature, and it has worked in his favor every step of the way.
And as his manager and partner, like, do you have to build new skills to complement him? Is it a natural fit? How have you developed I see it, right? I've known you now. Let's just go back 20 years.
Yeah.
We went to London together
Yeah.
with Rick
Yeah.
when I was like literally 23 years old, wet behind the ears. So this is 20 years deep of us doing things that are like me calling you and telling you, let's do something, and you saying, okay, this is are you sure we're gonna get into London?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we were all on the same plane to get out there, and it was like really cool to watch you come back to Europe after that. Like, that's 20 years ago,
Right.
right? And you haven't even done an album release yet.
No, not yet.
And you've come through some really major trials and tribulations in this relationship.
Yeah. Um, but you asked me a question at the start of this, just like anything else. His stage name is Slick Rick, and he has built a brand before I met him. Now, I respect it and I understand how to separate the two. I also have a sixth sense to make sure that in the way I do my business is extremely mindful, is very clean, very clear. And then I kind of go through the scenario in my own head. If this person, if he was representing me, Jesse, or if you were representing me, what demands would I expect from that outside person? So I pride myself on doing my own work, working for him, working for others, super with integrity, because I can't bring the drama home. So it's just clean. And after a while, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, for about 26 years. So after a while, it becomes second nature. And yes, it's an evolution depending on what project we're working on. Then I learn what's happening with Rick's energy, what he needs for this specific project. And I kind of operate as a chameleon to make sure that the project is successful, he's successful, and everything surrounding it is successful, including myself.
Well, you're building new skill sets on every one of these new things. I mean,
While
like
driving a plane, right? While driving.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you're now an expert on how game making is made on Roblox, or how clearances work, or how even like brands like PacSun operate, and other brands. Like, you've done some amazing kind of collaborations. I mean, Rick's a style icon, and I think honestly, in some ways, you're just getting started on what you're going to be able to accomplish. But tailored partnerships with with Clark's, tailored partnerships with other brands. Do you like working with, like, from your perspective, do you like working with brands? Do you like working with promoters? Do you like working with labels? Do you like working with, like, would you prefer to keep your head down and just focus on vision? And like, what do you kind of spend your time on?
I feel like I spend my time on making sure that all those aspects that you mentioned stay warm, because that's how I stay growing and learning. I don't want to focus all on branding and then leave the publishing behind, or leave the publishing behind and focus on shows. It all really has to it has to be a perfect storm of it all. And literally, they all are interchangeable. So no, I don't want to count anybody out, because that's boring to me. I rather just kind of be learning about all the different aspects of the music industry, so that I can continue to work in a space where we're breaking these glass ceilings that hip hop has really been placed in. That's super important. I feel like that's my mission now with hip hop turning 50. Like, what happens? It's turned 50. Does it stop for brands? What is it that how do we do this as a community to just really be classy, still be gaudy, still be hip hop, but still be our authentic selves? And it's a pretty amazing journey. And it's the word I want to use. It's it's a unique journey, but it's a great journey, because I'm in the thick of it.
You really are.
Yeah,
You're really in the front lines, in
yeah,
the streets, and in the
yeah,
streets, as in like
yeah,
out
yeah.
in the trenches, and then also in the suites, putting together what's going to be a major project that I think is going to garner a lot of attention, to put a lot of your life's work into it. So it's coming out second quarter. what do you hope to accomplish? Like when you're saying glass ceilings, what do you hope to see happen if we're, a year from now? What would be a couple hopes and goals that you'd like to see as a byproduct of putting out your first record in 25 years?
Wow, that I feel like that hip hop still, or should I say, Slicker can still tell the most imaginative stories as he did when he was a 19-year-old young man rapping Lottie Dottie in this show. And because I'm in the thick of things, there's a lot of roadblocks that are presented with hip hop. And next year, Rick will be, so he's 59 this year. I don't know of any other MC that has been away from the game and for so long that is willing to put his whole brand on the line to keep it going. This album was created right at the top of the pandemic. It had nothing to do with Hip Hop 50. It was just a random partnership that we had in the UK with Mr. Elba. And this just came out of something super organic. Didn't know we were going to come out with an album. Didn't know we were going to have a partnership with Mass Appeal. This is all completely organic. The Perfect Storm. And, hopefully it'll also allow, and it'll show other artists, the ones that are behind Rick really in age, that you can do this and not have to sell your soul. You can do this and utilize the power of imagination. You can do this. And I think that's the missing component of what is needing. Hip hop is poetry, hip hop is storytelling. And this next project is all that and a bag of chips.
And let's talk a little about glass ceilings. Let's talk a little about like what's holding back hip hop and even like this project. What could be a roadblock that we need to make sure that keeps you up at night?
I think the roadblock is yourself. I don't think it's the outside world. Yeah, those factors will always be there, but how brave are you to say, you know what? Okay, there's a puddle on the street, but let me just step over it. Maybe I may have to jump over it. I may get wet a little bit, but how can I jump over it? I think usually the roadblocks are ourselves. There is a lot of ageism when it comes to hip hop, but I also think that the artist has to be brave enough to say, you know what? I don't care what's happening. I don't care what's happening on the radio. I don't care what the trend is. I'm just going to be me. That's how an icon is created. That's how a legend is created, where there's just one of you, just one.
Yeah, like the legacy of what you're building is just so true to the core of storytelling, of style, of fashion. And even just seeing you like authentically shining through it. I showed up at one of your video shoots. I don't want to say too much, but you're in the video in such a beautiful way that it just feels like a piece of history. And I don't know what you're going to do with that. I've never posted that picture, but I've, got some videos and photos that, I'm sworn to secrecy on. And we had a lot of fun upstairs in the green room, shooting the shit, talking about the steps that we were going to do together and some of the leaps we were going to try and take.
And we're doing them, right? Because we're betting on ourselves. We're not letting the noise, enter our system. And we've broken so many barriers, Jesse, in the past year. I mean, look what we're doing. And even when it got a little bit, bumpy, we just rode over that bump and we kept on going. It's super important to keep on going.
I agree. It's it's compounding. If someone said, what's the key or what's the key to life and success? I wish I knew this earlier, but it's compounding in all of its forms, compounding in wisdom, compounding in relationships, compounding in health, in money. But you can't compound. The one rule of compounding is if you stop, you can't compound. So as soon as you stop pushing forward and you quit, you're done compounding in that area, and you can't really reap the benefits or sow the benefits of a long-term thinking.
I like to tell this story sometimes because Rick's first album is called The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. And it was an album that had no theme. And he was the third artist signed to Def Jam. And the label didn't know how to market him. They didn't know literally what to do with this album that had 12 songs with no mission. The mission was storytelling, but this is the early stages of hip hop, you know. I always say Public Enemy was on Def Jam. They had their mission, their theme. This Great Adventures didn't. And the label literally put Rick on the shelf for over 2 years, thought it was just too literally ridiculous to release because there was no rhyme or reason to any of the songs. And Rick then took it upon himself to go to hip hop radio in New York City, specifically DJ Red Alert, and said, listen, I'm on the shelf. Def Jam has gone quiet. Can you start playing these 2 records that I think will ignite something in New York? And the 2 records were a song called one was a song called Mona Lisa. The other one was a song called The Rule Is Back, which Jay-Z so happened to do over later on one of his albums. And it literally took fire. But it also shows you have to bet on yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, really no one else will.
I agree. I mean, it's hard sometimes to always believe in yourself, and that's why it's great to have friends that can
Yeah.
prop you up and
Yeah.
help you to see things you don't. And but yeah, I mean, I agree. It's self-belief and self-conviction, strong ideas, loosely held. Like
Yeah.
you change your mind, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like the ego can be the enemy in certain instances, but to really have confidence or drive and passion and tap into that, believe in yourself to take the shot. You're gonna never make a shot that you don't take.
Well,
So
let me ask you this, Jesse. Pardon, isn't it ironic that usually an artist's first album is classic? It's like they're in their purest form. Then comes the noise of life, and artists do have other albums that are great, but most of the time, the first albums are always the most classic material from them because there is no noise, there usually is no money, there's no distractions. So you're just
their
getting,
life story, everything, it's a culmination of everything. Then they're successful.
yeah.
The sophomore slump, anticipation, like it's a lot more boring of a story, like from success to more success.
Right.
Especially when there's all that noise.
Yeah, it's so true. So not saying that an album can't have another great album, but I'm just saying usually the purest is the first one.
There's not many with a body of work or a career spanning this long, so you could be 60 and still in many ways on top of your game. I mean, it's very inspiring. I hope and I pray and I'm working towards, like, I don't want to stop. I want to keep going for as long as I can too. And I think this opens doors for a whole new chapter.
I do. Yeah, I think so as well. It's kind of like paintings, right? The longer, or a bottle of wine, the longer it sits, the greater it gets, right? Jesse, 10 years ago, as we are smart as we are now than we were then, no. So I think an artist, once they know how to sing or paint, draw, you get better with age.
I agree. I think this is a glass ceiling that you're breaking in hip
Yeah,
hop with this. I think that
I agree.
because they always thought it had to be a young boy's sport, and yeah, it's tough. You got to run around, and it can be tiring, and you got to have vitality. But like, you actually can be smarter and put better poetry and art into the world as you get more refined. And so, I do think you're breaking boundaries and glass ceilings with what you're doing. Talk to me a little about extracurricular. Like, I know it's not all work and fun. Like, I know there's a passion behind bigger things than just like making songs and putting out music, which is, enough. It would be enough if it was just that. But you've got your kind of what stokes your fire in terms of outside of the grind of putting out this project.
I want to say our foundation that Rick and I, we've co-founded together, called Victory Patch Foundation. And I'm from the Bronx. Rick is from the Bronx by way of the UK, right?
I'm from the Bronx too.
So, and I want to say that maybe about 15 years ago, We just started to see that the Bronx was just struggling in general. And we just started to work together, and we have a small grassroots team, and just trying to figure out if there was a fire in the Bronx, where is this family being displaced? Can we help them? Small things, literally like that. And that grew to what we have now as our official 501c3 Victory Patch Foundation. And we have done so many incredible, life-changing things in the Bronx, but also in the 5 boroughs. So on the extracurricular side, that's something that I'm also super passionate about making sure that the community that I came from, someone touches them back in that hood, my hood of the Bronx, and just different areas of the Bronx. Rick lived in the Wakefield section of the Bronx. We've done a ton of things in the Wakefield section of the Bronx: homelessness, food insecurities, women coming out of shelters, Rikers Island. We've done, Rick has read tons of books to children, et cetera, et cetera. So that's an extracurricular activity that I find super fun. Outside of that, I have this hair modeling thing going. So let's see how that works out. It's a new challenge, et cetera, et cetera. Really representing the 35 to 45-year-old woman that doesn't have a space in the beauty industry. Usually it's either super young or on the older side. So I'm working to figure out how to break that mold as well.
What's the key to having such beautiful hair? You do.
Genetics, I'll be honest, in my family. And then now, more so maintenance of it now that I'm more conscious of what's going on in
Are you
the,
writing that up? Is there products that like for a separate conversation, but like for people that want to really have flourishing, beautiful, flowy hair at this stage in their life, no matter what, especially to different ethnicities.
right.
Like, do you have a regiment and a game plan? Like, do you have a vision for your hair modeling career?
I don't know I have a vision yet, other than being the representation that's missing. Yes, I'm a Spanish girl from the Bronx, but I have brown skin, so I'm a Black woman. But usually that's not solely represented in the hair care. It's usually like Black women that have kind of a different texture than myself. And I've noticed that sometimes have felt like with the beauty industry, I'm not sure where I even fit in. It's just very interesting. It's very interesting. But I'm coming from a different perspective now that my head has been opened to what's missing, across the board for beauty brands.
We've got to talk about that as a separate conversation,
Interesting.
because there's some interesting brands that I want to put on your radar that I'm talking with or working with that are doing similar stuff or would want to be doing similar stuff. So it would be fun to bounce around some fresh ideas.
Thank you, Jesse.
And so the foundation, we didn't even get to talk about the museum. I think we're out of time, but the foundation is named Victory Patch Foundation.
Correct.
Is the album, have you announced the album name?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not yet, but it's in that world.
Yeah. It just feels like this is about to be one heck of a lap around the sun.
I look forward to it.
Me too. And I look forward to being part of it. I'm really excited about what we're doing together. I know we're gonna have something to look forward to in June, an event that we'll be at in Utah together.
Yes.
And I'm sure we'll see each other in New York a bunch, in Miami, and obviously we'll be talking. But yeah, we're gearing up for our big Roblox PacSun drop. So hopefully we'll be hoodied out in a couple weeks together in Soho at the PacSun store.
I think we will.
I do too.
Hi, Tom.
Guys, that was remarkable. I got a quick question. Is that a public event? And is there any information that we can share with the audience about when and where that takes place?
We will share it very soon. It is one of these things that's happening in real time. That's the beauty of something like this. We didn't treat this like a press conference. We'll let our press agents handle our press announcements. we're just kind of excited. This is behind the scenes how a project comes to life. So we don't have it all buttoned up yet, but it's happening, and it's happening in the next couple weeks. So if you stay tuned on social media, on my newsletter, on Mandy's socials, on probably Roblox and PAX on socials as well, there'll be some more announcements.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for what you both are up to. It's amazing. I promised the audience they would leave today more inspired than they arrived. I promise you we delivered that. Jesse, I was really also so keen to learn about meditation. That is some high level wisdom you're dispensing there. So thank you very much. Mandy,
It's not
what
something I normally talk about, but it's just so useful, so
It's
helpful.
needed, yeah.
And if anybody wants to chat about that, I have some great resources. I've done some research and there's just great apps. And so it's very useful. It's a kind of a great tool in the Batman tool belt.
Yeah, people, I think in the industry, we need to normalize the aspect of health as well, embedded into our industry a little bit more.
Well, listen, thank you very much for what you all are up to. Thanks for spending your time with us today. It's been
Thank you.
awesome. To the audience, no event next week. I'm traveling, but there will be one in 2 weeks. So come back soon. Meanwhile, be nice to one another and stay safe.
Amen. Thank you so much. Bye,
Peace and
gentlemen.
love.
Bye-bye.
Bye.